Welcome back, everyone. This is our morning update on stimulus and Social Security changes. Mitch McConnell, Republicans, and Democrats came together and approved a debt ceiling increase that would get us through December 3rd, avoiding a government shutdown, avoiding the government defaulting on its payments, and avoiding potentially freezing Social Security benefit payments as well. Now, this is really good news and brings us one step closer to the stimulus package, which again could include a $1,000 stimulus check, which is what Bernie Sanders is trying to include in the American Family Stimulus Package. This article is titled, "Bernie Sanders Says Democrats Are Weighing a $1,000 Voucher for Seniors." So this debt ceiling deal is really good news, but is just one step to getting us closer to the stimulus package. Now, this was mainly put together by Mitch McConnell and Chuck Schumer in the Senate, and it has been fully approved. So in this video, we're going to cover exactly what happened and get reactions from both Mitch McConnell and Chuck Schumer, discussing exactly how this deal came together and what their plan is to have a permanent solution for the debt ceiling going forward. So let's discuss the details in this video, but before we do, don't forget to like this video and subscribe. I also have a second channel, so if you could do me a huge favor, click on the link that's in the description of this video. Please subscribe to my second channel. I'm going to be giving away a stimulus check on that channel just as a thank you for supporting my work. Okay, so remember, the debt ceiling is tied in with Social Security benefits and tied in with the next stimulus package. First of all, Democrats have really not been working on the stimulus package these last 2 weeks because they've been so focused on avoiding a debt ceiling crisis. And bottom line, they can't get the stimulus package done without getting the debt ceiling crisis done as well. Secondly, a lot of experts think that if the debt ceiling crisis actually came to fruition, that Social Security benefits, potentially Medicare and food stamps, could be frozen until the government is able to get more funding. Now, some experts argue that that wouldn't happen because Social Security technically has a trust fund and they could dip into that fund to keep making payments, but a lot of experts say that it would take months for them to actually do so, and based off of how Congress usually works, you would think it probably would take them a few months to make that happen. In any case, Democrats and Republicans came together. They have officially approved a debt ceiling increase that would last until about December 3rd. So for now, we don't really have to worry about this. Social Security payments will continue to come, but this is just a short-term solution. Democrats and Republicans are going to have to figure out a way to solve this problem long-term. But first, let's take a look and see exactly what just happened, how this debt ceiling deal came together. Then we'll take a look and see exactly what Chuck Schumer and Mitch McConnell said, as they are the ones that put this deal together. And at the end of this video, we'll discuss what we expect to happen next with the stimulus package, $1,000 stimulus check for seniors, and Social Security increases as well.
With the big news of this morning, straight out of Washington, the Senate passing a short-term increase to the debt limit. Elon Moy joins us with the latest. Good morning.
Well, good morning, Andrew. We are one big step closer to avoiding a historic and potentially catastrophic government default after the Senate finally passed that short-term increase in the debt limit last night. Now, in the end, Republicans helped pave the way for the vote despite months of insisting that Democrats go it alone. 11 Republicans sided with Democrats to advance this bill. But the final tally was straight down party lines. 50 Democrats in favor, 48 Republicans against. Majority Leader Chuck Schumer accused the GOP of playing a dangerous and risky game.
America's full faith and credit must never be used as a political bargaining chip. I hope my Republican colleagues relent from trying to make it one when we revisit this issue soon.
Now, that tone did not go over well with the other side of the aisle, or even with moderate Democratic Senator Joe Manchin, who literally put his head in his hands during parts of that speech. Now, that could be because Democrats are going to need more help from Republicans in just a few weeks. The bill only increases the debt limit by $480 billion, which Treasury projects will last until about December the 3rd. Now, that is also the same day that government funding runs out, and the two parties will need to work together to prevent a shutdown as well. So, Andrew, we're just headed for another fiscal cliff in December. Back over to you.
And do you have any expectation that it's any better by then? That's the thing I can't figure out. How does this work?
No.
And why would that improve the situation?
I'm not sure that it improves anything, Andrew. I think they're just trying to make it less bad right now. So there is some, hope amongst Democrats that if they can unify their caucus and get the infrastructure and social spending packages passed by Halloween, then they can, turn their full attention to bipartisan negotiations with Republicans. I think, frankly, that is wildly optimistic given the level of rancor we saw even last night when they did pass this debt limit bill. And I'd also point out that December 3rd as the deadline for raising the debt limit next. I mean, December 3rd is when the government is going to run out of those extraordinary measures. So the debt limit will have to be raised well before December 3rd to avoid rattling markets. So we just don't know what this timeline is going to look like. And I think that Democrats are going to find themselves right back in the same position when they're trying to negotiate with Republicans.
So like they just said, this solution is just a Band-Aid. It's a short-term solution. They only have until December 3rd, and they're going to have to renegotiate this once again. Now, one thing to point out is that Republicans are slamming Mitch McConnell for working with Democrats to get this done. See, Mitch McConnell and Republicans are trying to force Democrats to use the stimulus package to approve this debt ceiling increase. Democrats don't want to do that for many reasons I've discussed in my previous videos. I won't go too deep into that now, but they're trying to force Democrats' hands to use the stimulus package to get the budget increase done. Now, Mitch McConnell said he gave them this extension just to give them enough time to not be able to use time as an excuse and blame Republicans for not getting them enough time to get this done. But really what Democrats are trying to do is extend this until December 3rd, then actually approve the stimulus packages before then, because once the stimulus package is approved and done, that is no longer an option to even increase the debt ceiling, right? So once that option is off the table, the stimulus package is done, Republicans will really have no choice but to work with Democrats and allow them to increase the debt ceiling. See if that kind of makes sense, because Mitch McConnell doesn't want a debt ceiling crisis. This would look really bad for both parties and would cause an economic disaster that would be really bad. So Democrats' plan really is to approve the stimulus package now before this December 3rd deadline. That way Republicans really don't have any other options. I mean, they're not going to be happy about it, but really, neither side at the end of the day wants a debt ceiling crisis to actually happen. So if the stimulus package is done, Mitch McConnell and Republicans will have no other choice but to really just allow Democrats to increase the debt ceiling without using the stimulus package, if that kind of makes sense. Because when push comes to shove, both sides are going to vote to get it approved. And basically right now, since Democrats are working on that stimulus package, Mitch McConnell is using that as leverage, trying to force them to include it. But once the stimulus package is done, Mitch McConnell will no longer have that leverage. Now, let's take a look and see what both sides had to say, because this deal was put together by Chuck Schumer and Mitch McConnell, the two leaders in the Senate. Of course, Senator Chuck Schumer being the majority leader for the Democrats and Mitch McConnell being the minority leader for the Republicans. So let's first take a look and see what Chuck Schumer said. Then we'll see how Mitch McConnell responded. And then we'll discuss what we expect to happen next with the stimulus package and Social Security benefits.
Now, Mr. President, in a few moments, the Senate will pass an extension of the debt limit through early December, avoiding a first-ever Republican-manufactured default on the national debt. On Monday morning, I said we needed to pass a bill to address the debt limit by the end of the week, and that is exactly what we did. Republicans played a dangerous and risky partisan game, and I am glad that their brinksmanship did not work. For the good of America's families, for the good of our economy, Republicans must recognize in the future that they should approach fixing the debt limit in a bipartisan way. What is needed now is a long-term solution, so we don't go through this risky drama every few months. And we hope Republicans will join in enacting a long-term solution to the debt limit in December. We're ready to work with them. Leader McConnell and Senate Republicans insisted they wanted a solution to the debt ceiling, but said Democrats must raise it alone by going through a drawn-out, convoluted, and risky reconciliation process. That was simply unacceptable to my caucus. And yesterday, Senate Republicans finally realized that their obstruction was not going to work. I very much thank my Democratic colleagues for our showing our unity in solving this Republican-manufactured crisis. Despite immense opposition from Leader McConnell and members of his conference, our caucus held together, and we've pulled our country back from the cliff's edge that Republicans tried to push us over. This is a temporary but necessary and important fix. I appreciate that at the end of the day, we were able to raise the debt limit without a convoluted and unnecessary reconciliation process that until today, the Republican leader claimed was the only way to address the debt limit. Let me say that again. Today's vote is proof positive that the debt limit can be addressed without going through the reconciliation process, just as Democrats have been saying for months. The solution is for Republicans to either join us in raising the debt limit or stay out of the way and let Democrats address the debt limit ourselves. Those are the two choices, and it's very simple. Senate Democrats want a long-term solution to the debt limit to make sure financial markets remain stable and our economic recovery stays on track. America's full faith and credit must never be used as a political bargaining chip. I hope my Republican colleagues relent from trying to make it one when we revisit this issue soon. So now that Republican brinksmanship is relented, Senate Democrats will focus on passing Build Back Better agenda, so we can finally build up ladders of opportunity for people to climb up to the middle class, to help people already in the middle class stay there.
Republican and Democratic members and staff negotiated through the night in good faith. The Senate is moving toward the plan I laid out yesterday to spare the American people a manufactured crisis. All year, the Democratic government has made unprecedented and repeated use of reconciliation to pass radical policies on party line votes. So, back in July, Republicans informed our colleagues they would need to pursue any long-term increase in the debt ceiling through the same process. The President, the Speaker, and the Democratic leader had 3 months' notice to do their jobs. But for 2.5 months, the Democratic leaders did nothing and then complained that they were actually short on time. The majority didn't have a plan to prevent default, so we stepped forward. The pathway our Democratic colleagues have accepted will spare the American people any near-term crisis while definitively resolving the majority's excuse that they lacked time to address the debt limit through the 304 reconciliation process. Now there'll be no question they'll have plenty of time.
All right, so obviously we have Chuck Schumer blaming Republicans for the debt ceiling crisis. Then we have Mitch McConnell blaming Democrats for the debt ceiling crisis, right? So pretty much the same political stuff, both sides blaming each other. But at the end of the day, when it comes down to something that is so important like the debt ceiling, neither side is truly going to let that happen. But the problem is they're basically playing a game of chicken. Chuck Schumer and Democrats said, you know what, Republicans, we're not going to include it in this stimulus package, and they called Mitch McConnell's bluff. Now, Mitch McConnell kind of caved a little bit by giving them about a 2-month extension to try and include it in that stimulus package. Now, a lot of Republicans are slamming Mitch McConnell, including President Trump. President Trump has been slamming McConnell for giving Democrats a little bit more time because experts think that instead of including it in the stimulus package, Democrats are just going to approve the stimulus package without it. And then Mitch McConnell will basically have no choice but to help Democrats approve it without the stimulus package, right? Because like Mitch McConnell said in this video, a debt ceiling crisis would be terrible for the American people. And quite frankly, when push comes to shove, neither side is going to let that happen, right? So with that said, this has been fully approved in the Senate, and Mitch McConnell is the main reason this was approved in the Senate. As the Republican leader of the Senate, he gathered 11 Republicans to vote yes and allow Democrats to fully approve this. Now, to be clear with this process, Republicans didn't actually vote yes to fully approve it. They just voted yes to allow Democrats to approve it. Basically, 11 Republicans voted yes to allow Democrats to move forward with a vote and fully approve it with just 50 votes. So at the end of the day, really no Republican actually voted to fully approve it. All they basically did was vote to not filibuster Democrats approving it, if that kind of makes sense. I know it's a little bit confusing, but basically most of these things come down to the filibuster. Will Republicans use the filibuster or not when it comes to different things getting approved? And in this case, they voted to not use the filibuster. And again, it was just 11 Republicans, just enough to avoid a filibuster. And quite frankly, most of those Republicans that voted yes did so reluctantly, just because they want to avoid this debt ceiling crisis, not because they really wanted to help Democrats. Now, at the same time, Mitch McConnell was slamming Nancy Pelosi for heading off to Europe during this debt ceiling crisis. She flew to Europe for a conference, but of course, it's probably some sort of vacation as well, right in the middle of this debt ceiling crisis. And this is actually why it still hasn't been approved in the House. Now, we do expect them to do that next week on Monday, so it's not really a huge deal. Democrats have enough votes to fully get it done without a single Republican vote in the House, but nonetheless, Mitch McConnell is slamming Pelosi for leaving the country when we're in the middle of this debt ceiling crisis. And guys, let me know your thoughts in the comments. Do you think Nancy Pelosi shouldn't have gone, or do you think it's okay because technically the Senate had to approve it first? Let me know your thoughts on that in the comments below. Chuck Schumer went to Twitter and was celebrating the fact that Democrats got this deal done. And he said, "With America honoring its full faith and credit, Senate Democrats are continuing to work to build back better, help people and help families, help fight climate change, help seniors live a retirement of dignity, create good-paying jobs, and rekindle the optimism that has long been the core of America's identity," solidifying the fact that Democrats will now completely focus on getting those two stimulus packages done. And guys, there is a lot to be said about these stimulus packages. Bernie Sanders wants to do that $1,000 stimulus check. They want to expand Medicare to include vision, hearing, and dental. They want to create more funding for affordable housing to help seniors and those who are low income pay for their rent. And of course, there's always the chance we could get a fourth round of stimulus checks on top of that $1,000 stimulus check for seniors. So guys, there is a lot of updates to come. Don't forget to subscribe, and I will keep you posted on the next two stimulus packages, Social Security changes, and daily news updates as well. So guys, thank you so much for watching, and until the next video, take care and have a great day.